Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope you're doing well. This is Rovak, and this is the first video on this channel. There are so many things I want to say, but I don't want to waste your time. So you can go to the description box of this video for full details. What I will quickly say is this. If you have any original stories, confessions, requests, anything that you want to share with us, send them on this email that is shown on the screen, and it is also written in the description box of this video and all the videos in the future. Videos will be coming out 2 to 3 times every week. You can go to the comment section, tell me your opinion on any of these stories, because sometimes I make mistakes in my commentary or in my analysis, so make sure to say what's on your mind. You can check the timestamps in the description to know what stories you have today. That's all. Grab some popcorn, grab some chips, have fun. Okay, more Am I the A-hole stories or questions or whatever you want to call them. This one is from Jennifer. Okay. I, 27F, I'm getting married in 2 months. My brother's fiancée, Deborah, 26F, has always been a prankster. On my dress fitting, she pulled out a photo of a white lacy gown she'd bought and said, "Wouldn't it be hilarious if I showed up in this? We'd be twins." I didn't find it funny and told her clearly that white was off limits. Last week at a family dinner, she showed me the actual dress. It's definitely white. She laughed and said she's still planning to wear it because it's just a dress and I look better in it anyway. I lost it and told her she's no longer welcome at the wedding. Good move. Now my brother is saying he won't come unless she's reinstated, and my parents think I'm being childish over a joke. You're not the a-hole. I don't know much about wedding culture, but I know enough that women should, or guests shouldn't wear white dresses. I think us men don't really mind if the best man, for example, wears the exact same suit or same tux. Obviously, it's a bit different for women. Bottom line, your brother's fiancée is the a-hole, and your brother siding with her is wild. My advice to you, look out for her. She's more than likely going to do something to sabotage your wedding. Okay. Second story. I, 34M, I'm financially successful and decided to treat my parents and my 2 siblings to an all expenses paid trip to an upscale resort in Mexico. My one condition, no children. I wanted a quiet week of drinking and relaxing with adults. My sister, 31F, has 3 kids, aged 2, 5 and 7. She agreed to the terms and said her husband would stay home with them, since he was staying home anyway. There was a huge UFC event that night. Okay. 2 days before the flight, she called me crying, saying her husband cannot handle the kids alone and that he's going to his friend's house to watch the game there. And she's bringing them along. She expected me to pay the extra $4,000 for their flights and a larger suite. I told her if she brings the kids, I'm cancelling her ticket entirely. She called me a heartless uncle, and my mom says I'm tearing the family apart. Wow. Wow, Mom, he's tearing the family apart. He says I'm tearing the family apart over money I can easily afford. Nah, it's not about the money here. Am I the a-hole? So there's a lot going on here, so let's try to unpack this. The biggest a-hole in my opinion is your brother-in-law, your sister's husband. He's clearly an irresponsible person, someone who you cannot even rely on. He's incompetent. Everything was perfect initially. Your sister had no issues not bringing the kids. Then he started backpedaling and blew this completely. You're not the a-hole. Your sister could get a babysitter that night, and then her husband will be with the kids. And honestly, like, personally, I cannot handle the noise of kids. Especially since this trip is to unwind. So even if I was Elon Musk himself, I wouldn't compromise. Yeah, brother, you're not the a-hole here. Okay, story number 3. This one is from XO29. Interesting. My aunt passed away 6 months ago. She was a huge dog lover and left me her 4-year-old German Shepherd, Buster. Buster is a cool name, very cool name, along with a small cash inheritance. I live in a 500 square foot apartment in the city, and I work 60 hours a week. I told my family I couldn't keep him, but they insisted. It's what she wanted. I tried for 3 months. Buster was miserable. He chewed up my furniture, barked all day, and every time I look at his eyes, I see they're completely empty and sad. I eventually found a loving family with a farm and 3 other dogs who were looking for a shepherd. I gave him to them for free, but my cousins found out. They went ballistic. They said I stole the dog's legacy and I should return the cash inheritance if I wasn't going to keep the dog. Am I the a-hole? Okay. One of the reasons I cannot have a pet is basically the same reasons you said. I'm a med student who lives alone, small apartment. I also work 5 hours a day, every day. I simply don't have enough energy to take care of an animal. Hell, sometimes I don't even take care of myself, if I'm being honest. Your reasons are valid, but just, one little comment. You could have talked to your family before giving it away. Maybe one of them would be interested. Maybe not, but at least is still taken care by people you know. And you can visit your family and see Buster whenever life gets a little bit too hard. But, overall, yeah, not the a-hole here. This one is... No, hell no, I'm not reading that. Sorry guys, this is, wait a second. No, it's a good one. No, it's a good one. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my friend's $150 dinner bill on her birthday? Okay. A group of 6 of us went out for Jen's birthday. We went to a very expensive steakhouse she chose. I ordered a salad and water because I'm saving money. Total $22. Everyone else ordered cocktails, appetizers, and expensive entrees. Jen ordered the most expensive steak on that menu and 3 glasses of wine. Okay? At the end, someone said, let's split the bill evenly and cover Jen's portion. The total per person would have been $150. I said no. I told them I'd only pay for my $22 plus $15 toward Jen's meal. But I wasn't paying for everyone else's drinks. The table went silent, and Jen looked embarrassed. My friends called me a buzzkill and said I ruined the birthday vibes by being cheap. Am I the a-hole? Obviously, you're not the a-hole. How much was it again? So it's 150, and how many of you are there? 6 of you. So 1 times 6, that's 600. 50 times 6, that's 300. So basically $900 worth of steaks and wine. Damn, that's a lot of money. Here's my 2 cents, okay? If you're saving money, why did I switch to American accent all of a sudden? Yeah, I'm just gonna go with American accent, I guess. If you're saving money, you shouldn't really be going out with such friends. Life is tough. Most people these days struggle to make ends meet. Inflation got everybody tweaking. But, you know, the silver lining here is at least you had this heads up when the sum was only 150. Next time, when they ask you to go out with them, either save tons of money beforehand or kindly decline. I'm not paying money for people to drink artisanal cocktails and eat overpriced Wagyu. It just, yeah, it's not who I am. Unless I'm like filthy rich, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not. Yeah, you're not the a-hole here. This story is another Am I the a-hole? Okay, let's start. For me, cooking isn't just a chore, it's how I decompress. I spend my Sundays prepping, experimenting with spices, and making sure my family eats well. My husband, Brad, is my biggest fan, but his best friend from college, Greg, is a different story. Greg is a foodie in the worst sense of the word. The kind of guy who thinks watching 3 seasons of a cooking competition makes him a Michelin inspector. 2 weeks ago, Brad asked if we could have Greg over for dinner. I went all out. I made a slow-roasted, braised short rib that had been in the oven for 6 hours, a truffle polenta, and roasted root vegetables. I spent $150 on ingredients and my entire afternoon in the kitchen. The moment the plate hit the table, the energy shifted. Greg didn't say thank you. He didn't even take a full bite before he started poking at the meat with his fork. "It's a bit overcooked, isn't it?" he said, looking at Brad instead of me. "The wine in the braise is too acidic. It's clashing with the fat. And the polenta, it's a bit grainy. Did you use instant?" I sat there, stunned. Brad tried to laugh it off, saying, "Come on, Greg, it's delicious." But Greg wouldn't stop. He pushed his plate away after 3 bites and said, "Honestly, I can't really do this. It's just not very tasty. Do you guys have any crackers or maybe some cereal? I don't want to ruin my palate with this much salt." I didn't say anything. I just cleared his plate, put it in the sink, and finished my dinner in total silence while he ate a bowl of dry Cheerios at my dining table. Last night, Brad mentioned that Greg wanted to come over again this Friday to watch the game. "Sure," I said, "but he's not eating here." Brad looked confused. "What do you mean, we're ordering pizza or something?" "No," I told him. "You and I are eating. I'm making lasagna, but Greg is not allowed to have a single bite of food in this house. Ever again. If he comes over, he needs to eat beforehand or bring a lunchbox like a child. I'm not providing a culinary experience for someone who insulted my home and my effort." Brad thinks I'm being petty and extreme. He says Greg is just honest to a fault and that I'm taking it personally. He argued that it will be awkward to sit there eating while his best friend watches us. I told him the awkwardness is a direct result of Greg's behavior. If he finds the food bad, then I'm actually doing him a favor by not forcing him to eat it. I told Brad that if he gives Greg even a slice of my food, I'm done cooking for both of them for a month. Now Greg is texting Brad saying I'm unhinged, and that he was just giving constructive feedback. Brad is caught in the middle, and my mother-in-law thinks I should just be the bigger person and feed the man. Am I the a-hole? First of all, why is your mother-in-law involved in this? That's a weird encounter. Obviously, you're not the a-hole. If there was anyone who's the actual a-hole, it's your husband. I don't even care about Greg. He's a certified piece of crap anyway. I'm more concerned about how your husband was able to listen to those insults and just keep it cool. This ain't Gordon Ramsay kitchen, buddy. You don't get to criticize food that way. You spent time cooking, you spent money, you showed interest, and the only thing he's worried about is Greg feeling awkward. Why wasn't he worried when his wife, when you, was insulted for making food? Or when Greg called you unhinged? The hell is wrong with people these days, man? I'm so sorry you had to go through something like this. You definitely need to set boundaries. I'm not really a huge fan of ultimatums because they rarely work. But this is a very, very rare situation where you need an ultimatum with them. Thank you for this story. Take care. My name is David. For 20 years, I lived my life as a high-end furniture restorer. I believe that with enough care and the right tools and a steady hand, anything could be saved. I lived in a world of tangibles. If it was broken, you fixed it. If it was dull, you polish it. Then came Audrey. She was born in the spring of 2021. She was 64 days of erratic sleep, milk-stained shirts, and a kind of bone-deep exhaustion that felt like the highest privilege. Being her father was the first job I ever had, where I didn't feel like I was working against a deadline. I was just present. She was a tiny, warm engine of potential, weighing barely 12 pounds, yet she pulled the entire orbit of my life toward her. I spent hours just watching her breathe, amazed by the sheer, fragile physics of it. The last night was normal. We had a routine that felt like a sacred ritual. The bath, the lavender-scented lotion, the striped onesies that was still a little too big for her. I remember the way she smelled, like soap, like newness and the future. I kissed her forehead. I felt the steady, rapid beat of her heart against my chest for a fleeting moment, and laid her down on her back. I thought I was putting her to sleep. I didn't know I was saying goodbye. I didn't know the world was about to lose its shine. The silence of a house where a baby has died is not a normal silence. It's a physical weight. It presses against your eardrums until they ache. It's a vacuum that sucks the air out of your lungs and replaces it with a cold metallic dread. I woke up at 5:15 in the morning on a Tuesday in June. The sun wasn't up yet, but the room was a flat, sickly grey. My wife, Clara, was still asleep, her breathing deep and rhythmic. I walked into the nursery, my feet knowing exactly which floorboards to avoid so I wouldn't wake the ghost of a cry. I leaned over the crib, reaching down to adjust her blanket, expecting the warmth of a living baby. She was still, not the stillness of sleep, which is fluid and warm, but the stillness of a finished object. As I touched her cheek, the world didn't end with a bang. It ended with the sensation of ice beating my fingertips. There was no why. There was no how. The SIDS diagnosis. SIDS means sudden infant death syndrome. The SIDS diagnosis we would receive later was just a polite way for doctors to admit they were as powerless as I was. A total system shut down with no error code provided. The funeral was a blur of black coats and casseroles that tasted like ash. But the real war started when the guests left and the front door clicked shut. Have you ever tried to live in a house that is haunted by a lack of sound? I would find myself in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, reaching for a bottle that didn't need to be warmed. I would hear a cry from the vents that was just the wind, but my body would react before my brain could catch up. Adrenaline would flood my system, my heart would race, and the realization would hit like a physical blow, again and again. Clara stopped eating. She moved through the house like a diver underwater, slow, heavy, and life-deprived. We were two survivors on a life raft, but we were rowing in opposite directions. She wanted to preserve every unwashed sock, every half-empty tub of wipes, as if they were holy relics. I wanted to burn it all. I wanted to erase the evidence that the world could be this cruel. I became a dark, bitter person. I looked at the elderly people in the park and felt a sick, twisted resentment. Why did they get 80 years of sun while my daughter didn't even see the leaves turn brown? I hated the thoughts and prayers. I hated the suggestion that everything happens for a reason. There is no reason for a heart to just stop. To suggest otherwise is a lie. We reached a critical stress point in late 2021. I couldn't hold a chisel anymore without my hands shaking. The old world, the world of restoration, felt like a mockery. Why fix a table that will outlive us all? We walked away. We didn't sell the house initially. We just left. We rented an apartment 3 towns over. White walls, no history, no height marks on the door frames. I took a job at a lumber yard, sticking raw timber. It was mindless physical labor. I needed to move heavy things until my muscles failed. It was the only way to quiet the noise in my head. For 3 years, we lived in a state of controlled collapse. We were together. We were separate pillars in the same ruins. We were waiting for grief to finish us off. But grief doesn't finish you. It just sands you down until you're a different shape. In the summer of 2024, the air changed. Clara looked at me over the breakfast table, and for the first time in 3 years, she didn't look like she was underwater. She was pregnant. The terror was immediate. It wasn't joy. It was a cold, paralyzing fear that the universe was setting us up for a second time of the same tragedy. We didn't buy a crib for 6 months. We didn't pick a name. We lived in a state of breath holding. But then, in February of 2025, Milo arrived. He didn't come with a whisper. He came with a roar. A healthy 8-pound boy with lungs that seemed determined to reclaim all the silence of the previous years. Milo is a year old now. It's 2026. He is chaotic, beautiful wrecking ball of a child. He crawls with a frantic energy, pulling at the very foundations of our lives. Watching him grow is a form of high-stakes gambling. Every time I put him down for a nap, I still feel that flicker of 2021 in my gut. I still check the monitor every 10 minutes. I still listen for the breath. But the breath is there. It's loud and it's stubborn. I've started carving again. I don't restore the old anymore. I build for the new. I build for the now. I built Milo A toy chest out of white oak. Something sturdy. Something that can take the hits. I realized that Audrey's life wasn't a failed project. It was a complete one. Just incredibly short. She had known nothing but love. She was the primer for the man I am now. A man who understands that the structure of life isn't measured by its length, but by its ability to hold up under the weight of the unthinkable. Milo is sleeping in the next room. I can hear him over the monitor. A soft, wet snore. He isn't a replacement for the daughter we lost. He is the new wing of a house that almost collapsed. We are not fixed. You don't fix this. You just learn to live in a building with a different floor plan. The light still gets in, and tonight, for the first time in a long time, the silence doesn't feel like a weight. It just feels like peace. An account made only to vent. I'm a cardiac anesthesiologist, 42M. In the hospital hierarchy, the surgeons are the jocks, the athletes. The nurses are the nerdy, pretty students. And we, the gasmen, we are the wallflowers, the shy ones, the ones who go unnoticed. We exist in the 5 minutes before the world goes black. People think my job is just putting people to sleep. My job is a high-stakes titration of life and death. I hold your heartbeat in a syringe. I am the one who manages your breathing when your lungs are too tired to do it themselves. But the hardest part of my job isn't the physiology. It's the conversation. Every day I walk into the pre-op holding. I see patients who are salvage cases. These aren't routine gallbladder removals. These are 3 a.m. emergency aortic dissections, or stage 4 cancer patients undergoing debunking surgeries that everyone in the room knows won't work. I look them in the eye and I see the raw, naked terror of someone who knows they are standing on the edge of an abyss. And every time I tell them the same thing. Count back from 10 for me, sweetheart, so when you wake up, you'll be in recovery, and the hardest part will be over. It's a lie. I'd say about 40% of the time, I know they aren't waking up. The human brain is a funny thing. When it's facing the end, it searches for an anchor. In those final seconds before the propofol hits the vein, I am that anchor. If I look worried, they die in terror. If I look confident, they die in peace. I chose peace every time. I remembered a man named Mr. Henderson, 68 years old, a retired high school teacher. He had a ruptured abdominal aneurysm. His blood pressure was 60/40. He was literally bleeding out into his own gut. The surgeon looked at me and shook his head. A silent, "He's already gone, but we have to try." Mr. Henderson grabbed my hand. His grip was surprisingly strong, fueled by pure adrenaline. "Doctor," he whispered, his voice wet with internal fluids. "Am I going to see my grandkids this weekend? It's my grandson's birthday." I knew his vitals were crashing. I knew his pH was so acidic, his heart was about to stop. "You bet," I said, smiling behind my mask. I squeezed his hand back. "We're just going to fix that leak, and you'll be back in time for cake." Now take a deep breath of this oxygen for me. It's the good stuff. I pushed the induction drugs. His eyes drifted shut, still holding on to that image of a birthday cake. He coded 10 minutes after the first incision. We cracked his chest open. We massaged his heart by hand, but he was gone. He never saw the cake, but he died believing he would. Is that mercy or is it a crime? I keep a gallery in my head, a collection of the last words spoken to me. There was the 19-year-old girl from a car wreck who asked if her makeup was smeared. I told her she looked beautiful, knowing her pelvis was shattered beyond repair. She died on that table. There was the old woman who asked if I'd make sure someone fed her cat. I told her the cat was already being taken care of. I had no idea if she even had a cat. She died in the ICU 2 hours later. The guilt doesn't come from deaths. People die in hospitals. That's the nature of the beast. The guilt comes from the intimacy of the deception. I am the last person they trust. I am the one who walks them into the dark, promising them there's a light on the other side that I know is not there. 3 weeks ago, I had a patient who changed everything. She was a colleague, a pediatric nurse named Sarah. She was 31. She had an undiagnosed brain aneurysm that blew while she was on a shift. I was the one on call for neuro emergency. When they rolled her in, she was still conscious, but her pupils were blown fixed and dilated on one side. She knew the clinical signs. She knew what a blown pupil meant as well as I did. So, a blown pupil that is fixed and dilated, that is not reactive to light, means there's a massive brain damage. She looked at me and tears were streaming down her face. "Ethan," she said, using my first name. "Don't lie to me. Please, don't do the gas man thing." I froze. The script was gone. My mask felt like it was suffocating me. Sarah said, "I know I'm herniating," she whispered. "Just tell my mom I wasn't scared. Tell her I was ready." I had the syringe in my hand. The surgical team were screaming for me to drop her so they could start the craniotomy. For the first time in 15 years, I didn't lie. I leaned down and whispered into her ear, "Sarah, you're the bravest person in this building. I've got you." I watched her face as the propofol took hold. There was no hope in her eyes. There was only a profound, terrifying acceptance. She survived the surgery, but she's in a persistent, vegetative state. Her mother sits by her bed every day. I haven't gone to see her. I can't look at her mother because I know I'm the one who carried her into that silence. I've started to wonder if I'm doing this for them or for me. If I told them the truth, if I said, the chances are 1%, and you should say your final goodbyes now, the OR would turn into a place of screaming and trauma. It would be honest, but it would be messy. By lying, I keep the OR clean, I keep the process moving. I've realized that I'm not just an anesthesiologist. I'm a hospice worker in a mask. But lately, I've been having this recurring dream. I'm on the table. I'm the one looking up at a man in a blue cap and a mask. I ask him if I'm going to be okay. He looks at me with my own eyes, smiles that hollow, professional smile and says, "Count back from 10. Everything is going to be fine." I wake up at 1 every time, screaming in a silent house. I'm leaving this profession. I handed my resignation papers yesterday. My chief of surgery asked me why. He said I was the most composed anesthesiologist he had ever worked with. He said I had the best bedside manner in the department. That's the problem, I told him. I am too good at this gas man thing. I'm moving to a rural town to open a small clinic. I want to treat ear infections. I want to treat sprained ankles. I want to look someone in the eye and say, "You're going to be fine," and actually have the data to back it up. But I know deep down, the ghosts are coming with me. Mr. Henderson, Sarah, the girl from the car wreck, they're all standing in the corner of my mind, waiting for the recovery room that never came. If you ever have to go under and your doctor seems a little too calm, if his smile seems a little too perfect, just do me a favor. Don't ask him if you're going to make it. Just ask him to stay until you're asleep, because the lie is easier to bear when you're not the only one hearing it.